I guess can you just describe the process you have, like when you start roasting the beans, and how you take the beans from like just being the unfinished product, the raw beans, to the finished product?
Sure. So I use the roaster that's right over there. Basically, what we do is we weigh out all the beans to make sure that we have an exact understanding of how many grams of beans we're putting into the roaster. We roast basically till it's a trial and error process to make sure that we understand where each bean needs to be. But most of the beans that I have that we carry on a regular basis, like I know them really well, so I know where I want them to be. So light roast, dark roast, medium roast, and so basically it's about really controlling the level of flame and the level of fan that's going on within the roaster to make sure that they're rising at the right rate, that they're not going to be cooking too fast or too slowly. And there's a lot of schools of thought about if you kind of lengthen the roast, instead of going as quickly as you can, you go a little bit slower and have more space between the cracks that happen during the roast process. You'll end up getting a deeper depth of flavor. So I keep a really close eye on that, and then basically when they're at the right point, we dump them out into this big cooling tray in the front of the roaster that agitates and cools them down, and then we weigh them afterwards to make sure that we have a good understanding of how many grams of moisture and bean loss there was.
Yeah.
You put 100 pounds of beans into a roaster, you're not going to get 100 pounds back out. You're going to lose about 20% in that process. So I can tell by visual, by smell, and by sound where I'm at roast-wise, but also the weight is a really good indication, because if I lose 15% of body weight, that's going to be a very light roast, as opposed to 25% of body weight, which would be a lot darker roast. So,
Do you want to work, or do you want to take them, or okay. Does the where the beans, like the country of origin, does that affect how long or how hot you roast them?
Well, yeah. Again, it's a matter of getting to know your beans. So we have these Bolivia beans that we get from the same region of Bolivia, pretty much across the board. Once I get to know that bean and I've done enough batches on it, then I can really kind of dial it in exactly where I want it. But it really depends on elevation, and so the higher the elevation bean, the harder and the denser the bean is. So it can, in a lot of cases, stand up to a roast that's a little bit darker, a little bit fuller. You really wouldn't want to take like a Jamaican Blue Mountain or like a Kona from Hawaii, like some of these island beans that are at lower elevation and softer. You really wouldn't want to really roast them too dark. It's really about finding a sweet spot for each individual bean, and you can't really say, well, all Bolivian beans would be perfect this way, because one farm may be 1,000 feet higher in elevation than the other. So it's really, like I said, it's getting to know the product and making sure that what you're doing is hitting that sweet spot every time.
How long after the bean is done being roasted, like how long until it will be like used in a cup of coffee? Is it like just a couple of days? Is it a week, or is it like overnight?
Yeah, I would say it's on average 3 days is about the minimum that we would want the beans to rest before brewing them. Some beans, especially like the Ethiopia, take a little bit longer, so more like 5 to 7 days. A lot of times they'll say for an espresso blend, you'll want to let that sit at least a week before you use it. And that's because of basically when you first grind up a coffee and brew it, especially in the French press, you can see this. If it's been roasted 2-3 days before, you're going to get a big foam head on it, almost like the head of a beer, like badly poured beer, where it's just a huge ton of foam. If you get a coffee that's been sitting around for a month, there's going to be almost no head on it. So it's a matter of like waiting for that peak time. And so the beans that I'm just getting acquainted with, we'll drink them on day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, day 10. So we go. I do enough where we can try them every day and score them every day to find out where that sweet spot is. So like I said, for the Bolivia, it's 3.5, 4 days. For the Ethiopia and the Kenya, it's a little bit longer, 6-7 days. And it also depends on what you're doing. So like the espresso, we let that sit a little while longer. But all of them are basically at peak of flavor, when we're serving them here in the shop. And that's why we have many, many buckets around with dates. We date all the buckets, and this way we can tell, all right, this has been this many days out, and this is ready, this is not ready.
Oh, just like that. I guess when they rest, is there any process besides just having them in like the airtight bucket, or do you do something with them, or just literally let them sit?
We actually don't even have an airtight. We let them open to the air a little bit because the air kind of helps that process along to a point. You don't want to let so much air expose them so that they end up getting stale and they go flat and flavor quicker. But you also don't want to seal them because, like, if you really seal them hard, they'll pop the tops of the buckets because they are actually giving off gas. And so, I've had like one of those clamp top jars where it's actually popped the clamp.
Oh, wow.
If you seal it too tightly right after the roast.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Do you like? How long? I guess it's not the shelf life, but when someone buys a bag from you for personal use, how long do you suggest that they use it, like within like a certain period?
I would say within a month, it's going to be great. I mean, if it's sealed and in the bag, no more air is getting in because of the way that the bags have this little one-way valve. So it can stay on the shelf for up to about a month and a half, maybe even 2 months. Once you open the bag, then you're letting air in. So once you open a bag, you should probably use it within about a week.
Do you, like, with the beans that you brew, is there like a special way that you prefer that they get brewed, like in home use? Like,
no, I mean, I feel like people are going to do what they're going to do with the beans the way that they're going to enjoy their coffee. I'm not going to tell them. You know what I mean? I like the French press a lot at my house. Brian likes the siphon pot a lot. We all have our different things. One of our other employees, Ben, likes the pour over. So everybody's got like their own method that they really like the best, and so it's not for me to say. I mean, that's half the fun, really, is to try that same bean in 2 or 3 different ways of doing it and see what works for you.
I guess last question: what is your personal favorite like blend or roast that you guys carry?
I'm really a big fan of the Kenya, and we're actually out of it right now. We're expecting the new crop within a couple of weeks, and the Kenya is just fantastic.
Okay. That's all my questions.
All right. Oh, right on.